make this very clear. I'm an old school dude. I believe in God, and I believe the order that God gave man. God, man, woman. In my opinion, women were here, put here, brought here, created to serve man, to help man, not to be equal to man, not to be in competition with man, not to be at odds with man, but to be man's helper. The other day, one of the guys that I made a previous video about, one of the clients that I was working with that was getting absolutely dismantled by this worthless thought and her mother. He had dropped off the face of the earth. The other day, I was training some of my clients at the gym, and this dude walks in completely, I had no idea who he was. This dude had long hair, looked like a beach bum, a gigantic beach bum. And he's got closer, I looked at him, and he still didn't look familiar. This dude had a light in his face, and he was happy, and the way that he carried himself is almost like he wasn't using his legs, he was floating. A big smile came upon his face, and I finally, because of the smile, realized who it was. It was my big gummy bear. Now this dude looked completely different from the last time that I saw him. And I had to ask, do you still suffering with that worthless bitch? And his response was priceless. He was like, no, man, what you said finally sank in. And his other buddy that brought him came in behind, and we started discussing how things had taken a turn. And he finally started to realize that he was worth way more than what he had accepted from this girl and her mother. And all of this stemmed back to his own family. Now, the point of this message is this. I don't tell men that it's pointless to have relationships, and I don't go down that path. I will say this. I've been married, and marriage is hell. Sometimes it's good, but dealing with another person and having to measure everything that you do based off of somebody else, it's absolute hell for a man, because you have to surrender so much of who you are. And if and when you find a person that you can grow with, a person that is with you and serves the direction and the purpose that you have in life, and you are allowed and able to lead those circumstances, those are the only ones that can work. But when you don't do that, when you're dealing with a modern woman who is liberated and thinks that she can do and be all things male, and then the fact that the leash has been taken off of any sort of virtue via the sexual revolution, you have a very big problem. And I have a very simple solution. First of all, is you need to get back on your knees and ask for God to give you some guidance. Our culture, our society has destroyed that connection. Our connection, our God is our technology. Our connection, our God, our higher agency is our likes and the performance in our social media. It's not in real life. It's definitely not in the spiritual realm. And so when you deal with this world, in this worldly system, you will yield what comes from this. But if you can elevate yourself into a higher state of a spiritual awareness and realize that you were sent here in God's image to be a king, to have dominion over this planet, not only over the planet, over your woman. Sounds misogynistic, but I do not give a shit about anybody who wants to pigeonhole this message. The problem with our country, the problem with our world, is there's very few real men. Very few real men, especially in America. The number one thing that men need to do is get back to God. The next thing to do is realize this. If a king goes out in the village and just picks up some raggedy bitch that's out, who knows, maybe she's making sandals. If the king marries the sandal-making woman, she becomes the queen. But if there's no heir and the queen's running the kingdom, and she goes down and gets the guy who is the horseshoer, the local iron worker and marries him, he's just the king's bitch. That's all it is. That's all he'll ever be. Because that's not what God's order dictates. It dictates that the king is a man. And so what you need to do is become a man of God. And a woman who enters your life, she has to be willing to hit her knees and submit. She has to submit to the king, and she has to trust that you're going to lead her. And she has to help you, not anchor you. This makes it almost impossible, gentlemen. But if you demand this for your own kingdom, you won't find yourselves dealing with the same things that so many men suffer. Because very few women are willing to bow down and kiss the ring.